savings alternatives in America, and I use circles to keep it simple. First, but the most common way Americans save. It's like crawling around a racetrack to achieve a goal of having $1 million. We call it the $1 million dash. Net. Too many Americans take after-tax money and they put it into tax-deserved banks, credit unions, regular mutual funds, and they pay tax every year. It's taxed on the gain, and then it's taxed potentially again when they pass away. Okay, tax, 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 tax. 4 red circles. That means stop. Okay. Some people will take after-tax money and put it into a tax-deferred annuity. But as soon as they take money out of the annuity or annuitize it, it's now taxable LIFO, last in, first out. Okay. If you don't know how to explain that, you need to, but it's only 1 green circle. Now, what we do is we show people, hey, if you're a farmer and you have the choice of buying your seed in the springtime and you don't have to pay tax on what you pay for the seed, you plant that seed, you irrigate, you cultivate, and you work hard, and in the fall you harvest your crops, and now you agree to pay tax for what you sell your harvest for. That's a traditional IRA or 401k. You get a tax break on the seed money, but you have to pay tax during the harvest. That's not smart if you think the taxes will likely be higher in the future, okay? I would rather pay tax on the seed money and enjoy the harvest without tax. And people say, oh, you must be talking about a Roth. Well, a Roth is a step in the right direction. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you Roths only have 2 benefits. They only came around in 1997 when the government was hard up for tax revenue, okay? But see, IULs have those 2 benefits that Roths have and 4 additional benefits that Roths will never have. Why would you mess around with a Roth with a bunch of restrictions and rules? And if you don't know how to answer in less than 60 seconds why an IUL knocks the socks off of a Roth, you better attend tomorrow and learn those or you're missing out, okay? So in a nutshell, we can put money, pre-tax dollars into IRAs, 401ks, and then pay tax during the harvest. I prefer to pay tax on the seed money and accumulate the money tax-free under Section 72E of the Internal Revenue Code, access that money tax-free from age 65 to age 120, tax-free under Section 7702, and when I ultimately die, anything left behind blossoms, increases in value, and transfers income tax-free under Section 101A of the Internal Revenue Code. I have taught CPAs and tax attorneys this for years, and I say, show me any other investment in America that does that. And they've yet to show me any other investment in the Internal Revenue Code that does what I just explained, okay? And so 3 green circles is 50 to 100% more than 2 green circles, and it's better than 1 or none, okay? So here on one little slide, I just say, how many of you want as many green circles as possible? And everybody raises their hand, okay? When we talk about it mathematically, $1 doubling every period for 20 periods goes to 2, 4, 8, 16, to grow to $1 million. Did you know that? That's only if it's tax advantaged. But how do most Americans save in taxes earned? $1 doubling to $2, and then in a 25% bracket, you're paying tax of 25 cents. You only have $1.75. That doubles to $3.50. You pay tax on that. You only have 72,000 instead of $1 million. That's how most Americans save. In a 33% bracket, you'd only end up with 2.7% of your million. That's how most Americans save. Okay. If you have people who sock away money in a tax-deferred IRA or 401k, you go, look, I have $1 million. You have $1 million over here in your IUL. What's the diff? The difference is you don't choose investments based upon which ones grow to the most or even the same amount. You choose investments based upon which ones generate the most at the time in life you're going to be using the money the most, okay? Let's go to the back 9 holes of an 18-hole golf game of life, retirement, okay? If this person needs $100,000 net, okay, they would have to be getting a 10% rate of return, which we do all the time for our clients. That means you could pull out $100,000 a year out of $1 million nest egg. Well, in order for them to have a net of $100,000 to buy gas and groceries out of an IRA or 401k, in a 33% tax bracket, they have to pull out 50% more. Not 33% more, 50% more. They have to pull out $150,000, pay tax of a third, 50 to net 100. They will be out of money in 11 years by age 76. Most Americans are out of money from their IRAs and 401ks in about a decade after they retire, but they're They're going to continue to live, and now they rely on Social Security, charity, welfare of their children for support. Those who have money invested in banks and credit unions, they don't even have enough to last 1 year. An IUL provides $100,000 of tax-free income. They still have their million, and it keeps generating $100,000. Another 20 years, one of the two in a baby boomer couple will probably make it to age 96 these days. Another 20 years of $100,000 of income is $2 million, and they still have their million. That's a $3 million better retirement nest egg than the same amount of money in an IRA or 401k at age 65. One runs out of money, one does not. Okay? And in a webinar, I say, how many of you would like to have a $3 million better retirement strategy? And they all raise their hand. It's that simple. Okay? So we want them to have as many green circles as possible. Sometimes people ask, well, why is it tax-free? Hello? I mean, you need to be able to have several answers to that, but ever since 1986 tax reform, the second term of Reagan, there are only 3 types of income Americans pay income tax on the front page of your 1040 tax return. Earned income, passive income, portfolio income. Okay? If you have income that is not deemed one of those 3, there's nowhere on a tax return to put it. It's tax-free. It's that cut and dried. Now, there's a reason why it's a sacred tax-free cash cow, because you're taking pressure off of the government to provide for widows and orphans. If you die sooner, if you live longer, it prevents the government from having to take care of you in retirement or what have you. There's a reason why it's tax-free. It's actually helping the government. It's not a loophole, okay? When we move into the second danger, inflation, I don't like it any more than anybody, but it's never hurt me because I come along for the ride, okay? But see, we need to make it simple for people. And a lot of Americans do not understand, many advisors don't understand that in the early 1980s, okay, I started back then in 1974, and Jimmy Carter came in. We had double-digit inflation. And basically, before Reagan came in, the government realized they could not afford to pay Social Security recipients the true cost of living increase, what we call the inflation rate, the COI, cost of living, okay? And so they changed the way they reported the cost of living. Instead of the same basket of goods compared to the identical basket of goods year to year, they can compare apples to oranges. They can actually compare the price of an 8-ounce filet mignon steak last year to 8 ounces of hamburger this year, and it's the same, okay? And so in the red, from 1981 to 2021, the red is the actual cost of living. The government said the inflation rate was. The actual inflation rate was the blue. The actual inflation rate is always 2.5 to 3 times the reported inflation rate, okay? And a lot of people, they just don't understand this. From the turn of the century to 2021, the red shows the actual reported inflation, but the blue is the actual. So whenever they say, oh, inflation's 3, inflation during COVID-19, inflation was 9, we're going to give Social Security recipients a 9% increase. I knew immediately, and most Americans with any brains knew that when they went to the gas pump or the hamburger stand or to buy eggs or a used car, that inflation wasn't just 9%. But they don't understand why the government reports things the way they do. They think, oh, I guess they know what they're doing. No, they don't. The inflation rate was really 27%, okay? And our clients outpaced inflation during COVID-19, as I mentioned. But help clients understand you use the rule of 72 not only to calculate how many years it takes to double your money when you divide the interest rate into 72, but you divide the inflation rate into 72, and it will tell you how fast the cost of living will double. And so if inflation continues in this 10, 12% or higher range, the cost of living is going to double every 6 or 7 years. And that's what's going to cause a lot of retirees to outlive their money on top of tax. I call this the tax and inflation power curve. Now, the third danger is the market volatility, okay? And I predict it's going to continue for several years. You need to learn how to show people that, hey, if you have your money in the market, a 25% loss has to be followed by a 33% gain to get back to break even. If you have 100,000 and goes down to 75,000, 75,000 has to have a 33% gain to make up for a 25% loss. A lot of people in the Great Recession, they lost 33 or 50%. A 50% loss has to be followed by a 100% gain. A lot of savvy, advisors don't understand that. I remember on CNBC, Four gurus, and I won't mention their names, you'd recognize every one of them. The market dropped 40% in 2008. And in 2009, they said, well, the market dropped 40%, and now the market's come back 40%. Everybody should be happy. No, a 40% loss has to be followed by a 67% gain. They didn't even get it, okay? And so the Great Recession, I like to show the worst case scenario for my audience, okay? Starting November of 1999 and November of 2012, a person that saved their entire lifetime and maybe got $1 million, a nest egg, they saw that $1 million nest egg dwindle down to about 600,000 after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. I simply say our clients didn't lose. They may not have made anything in 2001, but our clients didn't earn zero for 3 years in a row. We rebalanced. They came in for annual reviews, and they earned 5% and 5% in 2002 and 2003. And then when the market turned around, they capped out at 17% in 2004. Okay? And at the end of this period, when most Americans were barely back to break even, took 4 years because they felt like they'd lost their future. They had to put off retirement 7 years. Our clients had doubled their money in IUL. $1 million is worth $2 million, where their friends who had money in the market, in the S&P, were barely back to break even. And then what happened in 2008? As Warren Buffett put it, he said when the tide went out in 2008, it revealed who was swimming naked. They weren't protected. Our clients were cheering in 2008 when the market went down. Go, go, because they weren't losing. And they maybe had zero in 2007. The first 90 days of 2009, most of our clients locked in gains of 16% after not losing a penny. They were clear up here. So at the end of a 12-year period, instead of having 1,046,000, a whopping 1/3 of 1% compounded rate of return, that's pathetic, okay? Many of our clients had their million was worth $2.5 to $3 million using IUL, okay? And so you need to be able to illustrate indexing in a very conservative fashion first. You underpromise and overdeliver. Hey, what if you could have 130% instead of 4%, but then you deliver 250 to 300%, which is what we do. And if you're not doing that for your clients, you better learn. If you had money in the S&P back in 1975, 500 grand, yeah, you can go through all of this up and down. All I'm saying is I would like to eliminate the heartburn and participate when the market goes up, but not lose when the market goes down and end up with 8 million. I would rather end up with 8 million tax-free than to go through a bunch of gyrations and end up with 5.6 million that's only going to net me 3.8. And in the seminar, all I say is, how many of you would like to have hamburger A on the right instead of hamburger B and IRA or 401k on the left? It's that simple, okay? So when people say, does it really work? We have a playlist on my YouTube channel that has numerous episodes where we actually show how IUL works. We also have a website called IUL Performance Watch, where every single month, my son Emran, who taught before me here today, he posts usually a dozen annual statements of IUL returns, actual returns for the previous 12 months, okay? Some of them might be a 2-year point to point. But people begin to understand that it outperforms the market, that IUL is not only superior to IRAs or 401ks for retirement planning, but instead of thinking the client connects the dots, you show them, oh, if it's good for retirement planning, it knocks the socks off of a 529 college savings plan with much more flexibility. If you're a business owner, it's a working capital account for your business. Our savvy business owners use it to become their own banker. Same thing with real estate management. This is where I keep my real estate equity separated from the property, okay? It's good for emergency fund. This is where banks and credit unions put 30 to 40% of your money in the bank is in insurance companies to increase the safety by 5 or 6 notches from triple B to triple A, and they increase the rate of return from 1 or 2% up to 7, 8, or 9%. Why don't you just bypass the middleman with your emergency funds and estate planning? If you're a skilled teacher or police officer, you can maximize your pension. If you don't know what I'm talking about, be with me on the 3rd day, and I'm going to go through an example of this. General tax reduction. getting money that's trapped in those IRAs or 401ks and roll it out. Lump sums. You can't believe how many people have lump sums from a settlement of a car accident or an early retirement settlement or a death benefit. And whenever I meet a widow or a widower with a death benefit and they say, what should I do with this? All their friends are saying, pay off your house. Not me. No, this is your chance to establish credit in your name without you having to go out and get a loan. If you pay off your house and then you need to go qualify for a loan in a few years, good luck. See, that's the biggest mistake too many widows make. No, you keep it tax-free. What should I do with this tax-free life insurance, this $1 million? Keep it tax-free. Put it back into a new insurance policy on yourself, and you can take half of the interest you're earning and make your mortgage payment. And you'll have money left over. You're making 100% more than the cost of the mortgage. I show them how money works, and they're forever grateful. We show them results. This on one simple page. We show them average rates of return by diversifying their IUL, even with one company. 20% here, 20% here, 20%. The average, when you add all those up and divide by 5, is over 10%. But then when there's anxiety, that spells opportunity. Here in March of 2020, my sons contacted 800 of our clients, and with one keystroke on the computer, they linked 800 clients to a 1-year point-to-point with no cap. Why would you do that? That's called a threshold strategy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you better learn, because your clients are missing out. That's where we usually don't use a threshold, because they subtract usually like 5% off of the rate of return. And if we average 12, they're only going to net 7. So we don't use that usually, except when we're pretty sure the market is going to do really well. In March of 2020, the market dropped 30%. We knew the likelihood a year from then the market was going to be up was highly likely. We were right. The market was up 61.3. Well, the market was actually up 66.33, minus 5. The clients got credited 61.33%. This client wished they had all of their money linked, but they were conservative. They put half of their money divided 3 ways, and then the other half, 18,000 grew to 29,000 in 12 months. This client had 852,000. That wasn't all their money in their IUL. They linked in March of 2020 and March of 2021, 1 year later, at a 61.33% return. They made over $500,000 tax-free. The account value was $1,387,000 1 year later. And if the next year the market would have crashed 40%, they would not have lost one dime of the $500,000 they made the year before, because IUL locks in your gains and resets, okay? When we talk about average returns, we underpromise and overdeliver. This client shows that their average return is 12.88%. This client had $110,000 in the 13th year in this little policy. And when he took out the policy, he was going to be thrilled if he had $63,000 in cash value in the 13th year. Did we underpromise and overdeliver? And yet we have naysayers out there that look at all these poorly drafted and constructed IULs and they go, I've never seen any IUL perform even where close to the original illustration. And that's why we teach IUL insiders to underpromise. Hey, here's the illustrated rate, 63, but we delivered 110. Okay, we do this all the time. Most of our clients, if you learn the secret Emron's going to talk about tomorrow for the VIPs, you'll learn the secret of IUL, how to move your clients to earn a rate of return in that 11 to 14% range by rebalancing and diversification, okay? We have to get rid of these old beliefs and make sure we get the new beliefs out there where people think, this bad information. We've got to stop this bad information from ruining one of the greatest financial tools in America. We need to dispel myths like, the insurance policy is going to crash and burn, it's going to implode because the cost of insurance is going to go through the roof. Not if you understand how to do it correctly. The cost of insurance gets cheaper as you get older. You can't believe how many Americans go, I've never seen an insurance policy get cheaper as you get older. Then you haven't seen one done right, because you've never seen one where you self-insure in 10 years. Now, keep in mind what I just said. Most of my clients, by the 10th year of their policy, their cash value doesn't equal the premiums they paid in. It equals and exceeds the death benefit we started out with. Did you hear that? Okay. Sometimes you hear, level's the devil. No. If you're max funding IUL for living benefits, All IUL should be switched to the level death benefit sooner than later. And you should do it when you've stopped funding it. My older clients, we start out with the level death benefit right off the bat because they're maximum funding it usually within 3 years and 1 day. 4 years and 1 day at the longest to comply with TAMRA, okay? Another myth that Index Universal Life is simply a permanent life insurance policy wherein the cash values are invested in an index mutual fund. That's what Dave Ramsey thinks. No, it isn't. You would have lost 40% twice in the Great Recession if that were true. Or how about the banking concept? How many of you understand the banking concept? If you think whole life is the superior vehicle for the banking concept, you don't know what you don't know. When you see how max funded index universal life works with the banking concept, it blows whole life insurance out of the water. And I'll show you a little glimpse of that tomorrow, okay? Sometimes I hear, oh, IUL's too expensive, the fees are excessive, I'm a fee-based fiduciary, you should use me because I'm looking out for your best interest. Ha! I show people real fast in a webinar that if somebody's touting that they're a fee-based fiduciary and they're looking out for their best interest, I humble them real fast. Well, if you're looking out for their best interest, when did you notice that they're not going to be the lower tax bracket because they're savers? And you continued to tell them to defer, instead of at least converting them to a Roth? Are you looking out for their best interest? And all of a sudden these fiduciaries want to crawl. They want to hide because they're really not looking out for their client's best interest when you look at it, okay? So we teach in IUL Insiders how to structure IUL correctly and fund it properly. I started in 1974. Again, I remember when Burger King was just a prince. I remember when Baskin-Robbins only had one flavor of ice cream. That's how old I am. But from 1974 to 1980, we didn't have even universal life. I was selling a term to 65 life insurance policy that took 1/3 of every dollar. The other 2/3 of the dollar would go into an annuity rider. The client could play it safe and earn 7.5% to 8.5% in an annuity, which sounds good today, but it wasn't back then when inflation was over 10. And so most of our clients would spin out the annuity cash values with no surrender charge into a mutual fund of their choice every 90 days with dollar cost averaging. And from 1974 to 1980, I ended up with over 3,000 clients in 13 Western states in mutual funds. They were never happier than when I got them out of the volatile market. I was trying to average 12%, but I realized, even E.F. Hutton realized, no, if you earn 12, you're only going to net 8 after tax. And after tax and fees, you have to earn 12 to net 7. If you're playing red light, green light, you take 12 steps forward, 4 steps back in tax, another step back in fees. You have to earn 12 to net 7. They said, what are we thinking? The greatest money managers in the world are the multi-trillion-dollar insurance industry, okay? They're the backbone of America. Not one of them went under in the Great Depression. When some real estate dropped 80%, banks closed, 40% never opened again. How many banks went under in 2008? Over 400. 900 more were on the brink of going under. How many legal reserve insurance companies went under in 2008? 0. 2 went into temporary insolvencies for a few weeks, but they still paid every death claim that happened while they were technically insolvent. They couldn't just call all their mortgages due. It's because of the legal reserve insurance industry that cross-insures each other. Safest place to have money. This is where banks and credit unions put 30 to 40% of their money in a bank into insurance companies to have a greater return and greater safety, okay? So 1980 is when Universal Life came out, and my clients were never happier than when I got them into Universal Life. And then interest rates, my clients never got credited less than 11.75% all through the 1980s, as high as 15.5%. And then as interest rates started to creep down in the 1990s, they came out with variable life, which I've never owned a variable product and never will. I wanted to get out of that volatile market. But in 1997, indexing was introduced by ING. And I immediately saw now my clients, I can diversify in index, 3, 4, 5 different index strategies. I can put 40% into a 1-year point-to-point, another 40% into a 2-year point-to-point, a 20% into a 5-year point-to-point with no cap or with a cap. And my averages are going to be between 11 and 14%. And especially when I rebalance after a recession, when there's anxiety, and I move them 40% or 50% into a 2-year and 50% into a 5-year, if they are not going to start accessing most of their money out of that IUL for 5 years. And that's why I've been able to earn average rates of return of 11.17%, and our clients net cash on cash over 10. Okay, you can do this. You can learn how to do this for your clients. So that was 1997. And in IUL Insiders, you will learn how money accumulates tax-free under Section 72 of the Internal Revenue Code, now for over 120 years, okay? You can access the money the smart way under Section 7702, and when you die, it blossoms. It increases in value and transfers tax-free under Section 101A. But we must comply with 3 tax citations passed in the 1980s. The Tax Equity Fiscal Responsibility Act of 1982 and the Deficit Reduction Act of 1984, TEFRA and DEFRA, dictate the minimum death benefit required based upon the insured's age, gender, and health. But a lot of agents don't understand TEFRA and DEFRA gives parity. What's parity? Equality. Listen to what I'm going to say. It doesn't matter if you're a 22-year-old athletic marathon running female, or if you're a 60-year-old, or you're a 78-year-old friend of our family who came to us. At age 78, he had 3 blocked arteries, adult onset diabetes, a prostate cancer episode, 6 sisters predeceased him, and 3 brothers predeceased him. He was the sole survivor among his siblings. I shopped several carriers, and I got him rated table D. Okay, he's rated up 100%. His life expectancy was that of an 83-year-old. Knowing that, at age 78, he wanted to reposition $500,000. Why? His objective was not the death benefit. He's okay with the death benefit. He wanted the least death benefit under TEFRA and DEFRA. That's what EFN came up with. Let's take the least amount of insurance we can get away with. And it turns into a tax-free cash cow. Knowing that he was rated table D to accommodate $500,000, because he wanted to put in $500,000 and start pulling out $50,000 a year of tax-free income. He could do that because Tamara wasn't around by then. We were able to do that immediately, even though he was rated. He got a 10% rate of return because he was unhealthy. I squeezed down the death benefit from $900,000 down to $750,000, and people say, well, who pays $500,000 for $750,000 of life insurance? Our clients do, because they didn't do it for the life insurance. He did it to get a rate of return, net, cash on cash, 10% tax-free. He wanted $500,000 to generate $50,000 of income immediately, tax-free, which he did until the day he died, which was 3 decades later, okay? Now, TAMRA came out in 1988, June 21st, the Technical and Miscellaneous Revenue Act. If you violate TAMRA, it becomes a MEC, and you will learn how to perfect a MEC. And a TAMRA, it's a misnomer. It's not the 7-pay test with regard to universal life. 7-pay is whole life. So whole life takes 7 years to comply with TAMRA, and you under TEFRA and DEFRA, you have to have more death benefit. It's more expensive to accommodate the same amount of money. Let's say $500,000. That's why whole life can't even come close to universal life. With universal life, you don't compare death benefit. You take the least amount of death benefit, you'll get away with lower death benefit, lower costs, and you'll get the money in faster. And that's why we can earn 9 and net 8 in universal life or index universal life, whereas some of the best whole life that touts 8%, you're only netting 5.9%, and it takes until age 95 before you're netting that. By age 65, when we're earning 9 and netting 8, whole life, you're earning 8 and only netting maybe 4.7. Whole life was designed for death benefit with guarantees. If your cash value grows to equal and exceed the death benefit in index universal life, why do you need guarantees of a death benefit when your cash grows to equal and exceed it within the first decade for most of our clients, okay? That's why we compare it to a bucket. And with a bucket, you'll learn in IUL Insiders how to explain this to people with a metaphor. You want to design a bucket to accommodate the amount of money you want to put in. And so if we have a 60-year-old that wants to put in $500,000, we want to get it in as fast as the IRS allows. And so they're self-insuring. A lot of people don't understand what that is. Dave Ramsey doesn't, okay? So we go through examples like this. This is super, super simple. If I have a client that wants to roll out $300,000 out of IRAs or 401ks, get the taxes over and done with sooner than later at today's lower rates, he's going to net in a 33% tax bracket, $200,000. I need to make room for $200,000 net after tax out of an IRA for 401k rollout. Let's say he's selling a rental property. He's sick and tired of being the landlord and he just wants to get rid of it. He's going to net $200,000 out of that. Unless let's say he has $100,000 sitting in a bank or credit union earning a pathetic low rate of return. So this is very, very simple. That's $500,000. On the third day, I'm going to show you a really, really comprehensive plan by optimizing all of the client's assets. I'm designing a bucket, an IUL, to accommodate $500,000. If it's a 60-year-old, I can get by with $1 million of insurance, or $930,000. Okay, you can buy way more life insurance than that, but you can't believe how many IUL agents have way more death benefit, and the spigot on the bucket is double or triple what it should be. Okay. When they put in that $500,000, maybe $100,000, $125,000 a year in compliance with TAMRA, many of our clients within 3 years and 1 day, because the first day of the first year they could put in $125,000. By the first day of the second year, that's 1 year and 1 day, it's half full. So many of our clients have it maximum funded within 3 years and 1 day, or 4 years and 1 day, and now the $500,000's in there. Now, the net amount at risk is the difference between their cash and the death benefit under the level death benefit. If they die, it only pays out $1 million, but $500,000 of it was their own money, but the insurance company is only charging them the difference of the net amount at risk. The cost of insurance in 4 years is already half. That spigot is already draining out half of what it was 4 years earlier when they were 4 years younger. Now, that $500,000 for most of our clients, earning an average return of 9.62, divided into the rule of 72, your money doubles every 7.5 years. $500,000 will grow to equal the death benefit by the 10th year. Most of my clients, the premiums they've paid in and the cash value, the interest on that has grown to equal and then exceed the death benefit. They could take out $100,000 a year at that point and not deplete the principal. But if they leave it in there another 7.5 years and it grows to $2 million. If they happen to die, it leaves behind $2.1 million. But the cost of insurance is 1/20th what it was when they started. The cost of insurance has gotten cheaper dramatically, less than 5% of what it was when you started. You can't believe how many agents don't understand what I've just explained, okay? So, this is why we use metaphors. We teach you to keep it simple. If I went to the IRS and said, I'm going to build a 5-story building, and they said, well, Mr. Andrew, that's great. If you'll just rent out the first floor the first year, the first day of the second year, you can fill up the second floor. And you do that for 4 years, 5 years, 100% of that retirement income will be tax-free forever after. Do the math. I'd do that in a minute. I would take time to fill up my apartment building to have tax-free rental income. That is TAMRA with regards to IUL. If you're patient and you comply with TAMRA, it's tax-free forever. You're grandfathered, okay? Cresmont is the one that said, you know what? If you just eliminate 100% of the losses over the last 50 years, just eliminate the loss years. In a normal 10-year period, you'll have 7 gain years compared to 3 loss years. The Great Recession, you had 5 down years and 5 up years. Guess what? You would have averaged 7.2%, 7.23%. You would have doubled your money in the Great Recession, and you earned 5. You only earned money 5 years. The other 5 years, you got 0. But our clients didn't earn 7.23. They earned 11.17 because in 2001, they earned 0. But in 2002 and 2003, we just went back to the general account portfolio and earned 5. In 2007, they earned 0. But in 2008, they didn't earn 0. We moved back over and earned 5. And then when the market turned around, they linked and they capped out at 16 and 17%. They only capped out twice. But their average return went from 7.23% on IUL, doubling their money. $1 million doubled to $2 million. Our clients tripled their money to $3 million by what is called rebalancing. So you learn how to teach this, that their money, $1 million of cash value is safe in the insurance company. When you say link to an index, you're not telling the insurance company to invest at risk in the market with your million. It must stay safe in the insurance company. Earning the general account portfolio rate, and the lowest, I've earned as high as 15.5, but the lowest has been 4. So I use the lowest to be conservative. If you feel bearish about America, you can sell it for 4% or 40,000 anytime you want. Okay? Back in 2008, we had clients do that because banks weren't even paying 1. So they were earning 400% more than banks 4 times, okay? But anytime you feel bullish about America, you're relinquishing the interest on your million. Your million stays safe. The $40,000 of interest is what you're allowing the insurance company to use to fund an options budget that allows them to credit you $80,000 or $120,000 on that million if the market goes up. They can afford to do that. People say, how can they afford to do that? Options double and triple like that, okay? But if the market tanks, the options expire worthless, but you still have your million. This is great news for most people who have never understood indexing. And so you show how it works with the actual historical average. Again, when they understand that general account portfolio rate, you can leave and just accept that if you're feeling bearish about America. But if you link to an index because you're feeling bullish, then you can link, and if the market goes up 10, you get credited 10. You get 100,000. It's very, very simple. But why do I use max funded IUL? The worst period since the Great Depression, the Great Recession, the average was 7.23%, and half of those years you would have earned zip. Our clients didn't do that. Our clients earned 11.17 because of what we teach you in IUL Insiders, how to rebalance and not just sit there and wait and earn 5 years of 0 when you can move back over and earn at least 4. That's a very simple way of rebalancing, okay? Well, let me wrap this up for you here today. My book, Laser Fund, co-authored by my 2 sons, teaches high concepts coupled with high touch. This right side is about 200 pages, 14 chapters with all kinds of charts and graphs and explanations. This is for your clients who are left-brain learners. They like the numbers. But don't miss out on this. Half of your clients are right brain learners and right brain decision makers. They make decisions by the way they feel. They learn by stories. So you flip over the book to this side, and this is 12 chapters with 62 chicken soup for the financial soul stories that talks about max funded IUL and stories of how it helps people for retirement, not outlive their money, college funding for their kids and grandkids, working capital for business, real estate, strategic rollouts. And no matter how they like to learn, when we started using both left brain and right brain resources, our cells doubled, okay? In the book are simple explanations of how indexing works. So, what we need to do here, our goal in this challenge is to help you take your practice to an entirely new level. You'll learn tomorrow and the next day. There's 3 kinds of people out there: the strivers and arrivers and thrivers. I let Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman take care of the strivers. The financial jellyfish is what they call them, that have too much month left at the end of their money. And if they finally get disciplined to live on less than what they earn, most of them come to us when they realize that that's not the end solution. Most savvy people do not continue to do what they tell you to do, okay? They begin to arrive, and they understand the 3 marvels of wealth accumulation that we'll teach. The thrivers are differentiated from the arrivers because they repeat the process. It's not a one-off. Most of our clients end up with between 5 to 17 IULs during our relationship with them over 20 or 30 years. Many of our real estate investing clients have multiple pieces of real estate, but where do they keep and manage their real estate equity? In max funded IUL policies, okay? So this is our key market. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more tomorrow and the next day. But the key is this. People are indebted, okay? And they don't realize it. They're going to outlive their money, and they keep following the herd. You need to help your clients achieve financial freedom and be in the top 5%, arrive at the land of peace and abundance to where they have 2 or 3 million instead of just 500,000 or 700,000, especially after tax in an IRA or 401k portfolio. So we take people through a very predictable 8-step process. I'm going to talk about this tomorrow. And once you do that, I will teach you, if you choose to engage with IUL Insiders, how to branducate your process so that people want to go through that process, and it's on one 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Most advisors, it's so ambiguous what clients come and say, well, what's next? What's next? You need to have a process, and you branducate it, you trademark it, and then you need to learn that 85% of the result of that process is determined in the first 15%. What was the first 15%? Okay. Whoops, it's the enlightenment experience. It's getting it. That's why I'm going to teach you tomorrow. You ask your clients, do you like to listen and learn? Do you like to read and learn? Do you like to watch and learn? How do you like to learn? And then you provide educational resources for them to do that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I've done all that for you, okay? And when they get educated, you'll be blown away because they will end up wanting something they didn't know they wanted until they got educated, which is magic. Most people come to us and in the first appointment, I say, what did you want to accomplish most from our visit here today, Jim and Mary? 70% say, well, whatever we do, we want one of those IUL laser funds you talked about. We're just here to see how it works in our particular set of circumstances. They've already bought, okay? That's what you want. You want educated clients. That's the highest and best use of your time. So throughout this challenge, I'm going to be asking you, are you optimizing all of your clients' assets, okay? And I will go through 8 asset categories, and you'll see that these percentages of IUL policies come from repositioning underperforming and non-performing assets in these 8 categories into IUL to increase the liquidity, safety, rate of return, and tax benefits of money they have in other places, okay? Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. You don't go hogging all their money. You simply show them and let them tell you which ones you think they ought to, which ones do you think you ought to reposition to increase the liquidity, safety, rate of return, and tax benefits. And I'll show you an IUL illustration doing that, okay? And you will learn how to 10 times your average case size. Here's the final message. This is what I give when I teach a live webinar. I'm not a doomsdayer, but I am a realist, and unfortunately, the U.S.'s economy is very fragile and it could sink. I don't think it will. But regardless of what happens, so many congressional revenuers sometimes spend all of their time rearranging deck chairs on a sinking Titanic, trying to spend their way out of a recession or what have you. But it's simple economics. If your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep will become your downfall. And unfortunately, a lot of politicians have never even run a candy store before. They don't even get this, okay? And so people understand, and I say, what I want you to do is board a lifeboat. The strategies that I'm showing you, utilizing my favorite vehicle, Max Funded IUL, will help you stay afloat in case the economy sinks so that you don't lose. So that you'll stay afloat financially. But see, a 401k is not the cat's meow we thought it was. And you're going to see what you can do better because Uncle Sam, unfortunately, is going to have to take a bigger and bigger piece of the American taxpayer pie to meet all the spending. And I want you to be immune from that and stimulate America instead of being part of the problem. Too many congressional legislators are slowing down what could otherwise be a robust economy. And so don't depend on the government to take care of you in your golden years. You take ownership. Many times I'll ask an audience, what would you call something that you put money into and it grows tax-free? Your money doubles about every 7 to 10 years, very predictably. And every $1 million that accumulates in this vehicle can generate a 10% payout, $100,000 a year of tax-free income without depleting it if you live to be 120. And at the end of the day, when you finally die, excuse me, anything you leave behind blossoms, increases in value, and transfers tax-free. When I ask them, what would you call something that does that? They usually blurt out, a miracle. Yeah. Max Funded IUL, if you don't know how to explain how it is a dream solution, a miracle, you need to engage with IUL insiders. Did your IUL agent design your IUL to receive a grade of A+, B+? I just did a YouTube video on this. I don't want you and want any of your clients watching that video and looking at the one you designed and going, oh my heck, this is like a D. You need to learn how to make A-plus plans. You must learn the telltale signs that your IUL is structured correctly, such as if it's not earning more than the costs and fees within the first few years, you didn't design it as good as you could have. If the premiums you paid in don't equal the cash value by the 5th year, something's probably awry, or maybe you just started out at a bad time in the market. But if your cash value hasn't grown to equal and exceed the death benefit within 10 or 12 years, you have too much life insurance in that policy, and it's going to take too long, and they would be lucky to earn 9 and net 4. If you're going to earn 9% or 10%, you want them to net within 1% of the gross rate of return within 15 or 20 years of that policy. You want the cost of insurance to get cheaper as you get older. And so the last thing I want you to chew on, because Emran is teaching a VIP session tomorrow morning, I don't want you to miss out. Now, people say, do I really need to attend the VIP sessions? No, you can be a mediocre agent without those. But if you really want to learn the secret behind IUL, join the VIP session. You get all of this, the replays of all of this and a lot of material. But I want you to attend the session tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Mountain Time with Emran. He's going to show you several things, but this is one of them. If you don't diversify and rebalance, with most IUL agents don't know how to do, even if you could achieve a 7.2% average rate of return, your money, $500,000, will double, 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 but it won't double except every 10 years. It'll double to $4 million. Now, that's not bad. But if you could just learn how to tweak the rate of return, an extra 2.4% up to 9.6, which is what we've averaged ever since 1980. Your money, 9.6 divided into the rule of 72, doubles every 7.5 years. What does this mean for your client? You achieve twice as much. If you had the ability to achieve $8 million for this client and you only achieved half that, how are you going to feel when you didn't take the time to learn how to do it right? That's the difference. It's a little bit of difference. And that's what we're so passionate about doing in IUL Insiders. So I would recommend you join the VIP session tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Rearrange your schedule if you haven't done it. You'll learn the greatest secret of IUL. Other than that, I don't have any strong feelings on this subject. But this is not about me or us. This is about you and your future. I sincerely respect your time and attention today. We do not take it lightly. Let what we've said soak in. Get ready, put on your seatbelt tomorrow. I'm going to up it, and I'm going to give you ideas worth $500,000 or more. How many of you got some ideas today that you think will be worth $250,000? Good, okay? Wait till tomorrow, and then wait till the third day. So we'll see you tomorrow after Emran teaches. My marketing genius and VP, Bud, is going to share how we predictably find and filter the right fit clients. And then I'm going to come back on, and I'm going to show you 3 transformations that will 10 times your income. Okay? Have a great day, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Join the VIP session at 9 a.m. To seize the opportunity for your greater future. Thank you.